All right. Well, let's dive in. I am thrilled to have a very interesting topic today. And we have got quite the lineup to talk to us. So we've got Angelo with us today. Angelo, who's with a founder of MetPro, the metabolic profiling process. And Angelo has been doing this work for decades, analyzing people's metabolism and providing that individualized approach to obtaining goals. And he's helped athletes and business people, educating people about fitness and weight loss, and many of them women interested in weight loss. So this is familiar territory for him. And joining him today, we've got Megan. Megan is our Director of Coaching and Client Experience here at MetPro. She has been with Angelo and MetPro pretty much since the beginning. That's the way I like to think of it. Many years. Her degree, she's got a master's degree in kinesiology. And she has been working with the clients for years, many women, helping them in their transformative journey of fat loss. And then in so many other areas with developing content and our technology. And then want to call out Jessee's with us too. She's one of our coaches, and you've seen Jessee before here as well. She's been coaching for more than a decade, about 15 years, loves it. She's passionate about helping men and women just become their best selves. She's got kids. And so, she's been on that journey as well that many women have been on. So excited to have them with us today. And I just can't wait to dive into these questions. So we've already had some questions come in. This is definitely a popular topic. For anybody that wants to ask questions, please type them into the chat. We've got the chat screen open. I'll be looking at anything that comes in and firing that off to either Jessee or Megan or Angelo. So if you do have questions, be sure to ask those. But I'm going to start with these ones that came in already. So Angelo, can I start with you?
Unmute yourself, Angelo. Okay, now I'm happy to.
Okay, Angelo, here is a question that came in. Have fun. What is the lowest threshold of intake you recommend for a woman or anyone for that matter? What's the lowest threshold of intake?
Okay. Believe it or not, this is actually something that I get asked more frequently than you'd think. And there's two answers. And the answers are pretty direct. The first answer is as low as your body will tolerate. That threshold is almost always above what I will allow. So in other words, you have two thresholds. There's what your body will tolerate and then what I'll allow. So here's what that means. As you begin following any sort of structured program, one of the first things you'll notice is it's a lot easier to actually identify what your average caloric intake is. So a lot of people say, oh, I had, 800 calories in a day, or I had 1,500 calories a day, and I felt this way or felt that way. You don't know how you feel after one day. If you're consistent with a protocol over time, now you're actually going to feel what very low calories or very high calories or anywhere in the middle is actually going to feel like on your body. And so what we're looking for is your energy. Are you experiencing any blood sugar? Are you experiencing issues? Are you experiencing any dips in your energy throughout the day? Now, a lot of people will say, well, as long as I'm losing weight, it's okay. But that's never a trade-off that long-term works in your favor. What will always happen is your body finds a way to preserve your health first. So that means you'll just start falling asleep an hour sooner, or you won't have as good of a workout, or you won't even go to your workout in the first place because eventually you'll run out of energy. Something will give. And if you fight that too much, then your hormonal system will end up getting wonky. So you have to make sure that your body has adequate energy. That doesn't mean optimal. It won't be optimal. If you're losing weight at any aggressive clip, your energy is probably not going to be as optimal as if you were having a surplus of calories, energy intake, performing your best. So it's not one's right or one's wrong. It's a matter of understanding how our biology responds to that. The second thing is going to be recovery. And that's a moving target. So what is adequate for your recovery today may not necessarily be adequate for your recovery tomorrow or the day after, because your training, exercise, and activities change. Most people, they think, well, here's my training regimen, but they forget the most practical fluctuating elements and whether or not you need more or less fuel in a given day. And it's just simple. How many hours are you awake? A day that you're getting up at 5 and then catching a red eye and you're up, 14, 15 hours consecutively, you are most definitely going to need more fuel that day than you might on a day where you're simply not awake as many hours or active. And then finally, satiety. Most people say, well, I'm fine on this caloric intake. I've been dieting a few people, and if you are eating a diet that you are quote unquote fine on, but you are walking around hungry all the time, it's not working. You can grin and bear it for a day, for a few hours, maybe a week, but it's not going to do anything to get you where you want to be 3 months from now or 3 years from now, because that's not sustainable. So that's the first threshold that your coach is going to look at with you, and where it's individual for each person. Now, the threshold that I talked about, that's for me, that's where basically I've looked back and our coaches and our experts have analyzed data. And we have found, and this is not a hard rule, but the industry, approximate industry standard, around 1,200 calories seems to be about the threshold. Now, 1,200 may be way too low for you, or especially if you're a super active athlete or something like that. But around that threshold, we find that while, don't get me wrong, there's lots of people who claim to feel fine on a little bit lower, a day here, a day there. But overall, if somebody's dipping significantly below that somewhat industry standard, if you track their progress over their arc, their journey, typically you'll find that they're making less progress. Any small amount of gain from reducing further past that threshold is usually negated by a corresponding what we call metabolic drift. So your metabolism will always acclimate to your diet. So if you lower your intake too aggressive, you may, for the few days, see a little bit lower number on the scale, but as your metabolism ends up acclimating and getting used to that, then end result is actually you've made less progress. You would have been better off at that point readjusting your goal, going through a different diet cycle for a few days or weeks, and then coming back to a cutting cycle. So that's typically the thresholds that we see specifically for women.
Super. Thanks, Angelo. Megan, I'm going to bounce a question over to you that came in. Somebody said, when I start to eat carbohydrates, my weight always goes up. I cannot eat as many carbs as my coach or the app wants me to without gaining weight.
Oh, I love this question. I hear this all the time from not just women, but from everyone, right? So yes, two things, right? When you begin to add any sort of food to your diet, you're going to have more bulk in your system, right? And so a lot of times we give carbohydrates a bad rap and we say, oh, I gained weight overnight because I ate, 3 ounces of sweet potato yesterday and I hadn't been doing that previously. And now I'm up weight. Okay, well, you didn't put on fat, right? Maybe your ounces are up on the scale a couple of ounces, or maybe you're up a full pound, but that's your body reacting to the contrast that we've created, right? Versus your body saying, hey, no, I can't tolerate this amount of food. Now, having said that, the second thing is, let's say that those couple ounces turn into a pound or 2 pounds, and your coach says, hey, we're going to continue, we're going to add a little bit more, and then your weight really starts to stabilize, a pound or 2 higher. That's really when you and your coach will look and say, okay, is this an acceptable place for my weight, or do we need to back off the amount of carbohydrates we are giving you because we're not seeing your body, quote unquote, rev up to meet that amount of intake, right? And so there's a lot of different levers that then can be pulled. We can start switching around your exercise. yada, yada. So it's rarely, initially, the first 2, 3 days, it's typically carbohydrates get the bad rap, and us women just look at the scale and go, ah, I'm gaining weight right away by eating carbohydrates. But really, it's just that contrast that we're creating and more bulk in your system. And then second, it's really for you and your coach to determine, okay, how many carbohydrates can your body tolerate at this point? Because remember, your metabolism is a moving target. And so we're going to constantly be changing how much you can metabolize, how much your body can handle throughout a period of time versus saying, oh, yeah, Tony, I guess, 100 grams of carbohydrates, that's all you get for the rest of eternity. So those are the things that we are playing with. So I would specifically say to whomever asked that question, hang in there. This isn't forever. Be gentle with yourself in those first couple of days of weight. Every time you get a phase increase or an intake increase, and just ride the wave. Your coach knows what they're doing. So
Super.
cool.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
Jessee, here's one I'm going to pass over to you. Can sleep affect my ability to lose weight?
Yes, it can affect your ability to lose weight, and it can affect your ability to gain weight. So sleep is definitely one of those main questions that I probably ask my clients on a daily. How's your sleep? How much energy do you have? Is it due to the sleep? Is it due to the food? If we think about sleep, it's more of the time that your body gets to restore itself, right? If you think of sleep, you should change it to restoration period. We work all day. We're challenging our brain. We're challenging our eyes. We're challenging all of our motors, and we have to fuel it, and then we have to rest it. So I would say the biggest challenging client I have, or the hardest challenge, is those that work 20 hours a day. They're working from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, and they are up all the time, but they're not active, and they don't have time to work out because they work all the time and they don't sleep. And so it's like, if I had a prescription for that client, it is to sleep. It is, oh, you have 30 minutes, go take a nap. It is not, oh, let's get to the gym and let's work out and let's do all these other things to push your body. No. We have to start with the basics, right? So we're going to go back to childhood. We're going to go back to when our body was made, right? It's made to eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom. So if those things aren't happening, we have to start there. And so a lot of times that's what I'm noticing, is that, we're troubleshooting the wrong thing. Food can be spot on. Exercise could be spot on, but they're sacrificing their sleep for their exercise. So I like to just always address that, saying, if your body's not restoring, then it's not going to have the ability to recover, to keep pushing, to keep building, to keep losing. Whatever our goals are at that time, we are not going to be successful unless we have adequate sleep. And the sleep studies say an average American, an adult American, anybody of any human race, not just internationally, I guess, is 7 to 9 hours. How many of you get 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Right? We're lucky sometimes if we get 5 or 6. So having that little bit of grace to say, if I'm sleeping 4 hours, try to get 5. If you're sleeping 5, try to get 6. Is it restful sleep? Are you up all the time? Are you too hot when you sleep? Creating an environment where you can sleep. I have a little notepad next to my bed. So if I wake up with a thought, I write it down so I make sure I don't forget it. And I go back to bed. So definitely sleep can impact you in all sorts of ways. So hope that answered it.
Thanks, Jessee. Here's a question that I'd like to pass over to you, Angelo, and it's about women and estrogen and the storage of fat. So if estrogen is stored in fat cells, when you lose weight, when you lose body fat, does that estrogen get released and change a woman's cycle, or how do those play together?
So the answer is maybe. So that's not exactly an inaccuracy, but it's not a guarantee of that it's going to change your cycle. And so here's why. Just anecdotally, working with many women over the years, I've seen lots and lots of women lose weight with no change to their habits and patterns pertaining to their cycle. But I have, had a handful of experiences where a significant amount of weight was lost. And of course, they were working with their doctor along with this, because this is more in that lane, the medical lane. They were tested, and there was some hormonal stuff that's outside of my area of expertise and direct lane where it was interacting. That's more of a rarity. So I wouldn't say that that's something that should in any way deter you from solid nutrition, consistent exercise, regular sleep, and all the other things that are going to kind of be the star on what's going to be most impactful. And I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but I saw the next question come in that's kind of related to this. Is it okay if I tackle that one, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone who's peri-menopause, 47. That's the age. How do you overcome peri-menopause hormone symptoms with diet and exercise and start losing weight like I did 2 years ago? I feel that you deserve an honest answer to that. The honest answer is you don't, because peri-menopause and then menopause happens. What that means is that you're not going to start some special exercise routine that has a unique movement, or you're not going to add some special fruit or compound into your diet that is all of a sudden going to negate the very real effects of hormone change as you go through that process. What's going to happen is that as long as the fundamentals are in place, you're going to get the best possible outcome. It makes it even more important, the things that you can control and control immediately, that we get them right. And that's where most people miss, is they don't necessarily know the best route to get those right. What should I be doing for my exercise? How should I be eating? And if you feel pretty confident with those questions, it's how soon after starting a routine is it time to change it up? So that way I'm forcing my body to adapt and leading it where I want it to go, versus just kind of surrendering to my current metabolic state or my hormones and saying, okay, you stay in the driver's seat, I'll just stay reactive. We want to be proactive. And the tools that we're going to use are going to be diet, exercise, and lifestyle. But it is a true thing. Your body goes through hormonal changes. Some women are impacted more dramatically and in different ways than others. So it's not that your journey is written, but I have seen countless women have great results, even going through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond.
Super. Thanks for tackling both of those, Angelo. That was great. Megan, here's a question for you. I'd like your opinion, or somebody would like your opinion. What is the best exercise type to support fat loss? And this person says that running is the most helpful for them, but your opinion on that. And then Jessee and Angelo, if you want to think about any answers you might have after that as well. Start with you, Megan.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. I'm glad running works for you. Stick with that, right? Until it's no longer working. And then your coach is going to help you adjust that, right? And the answer is going to be a little bit different for every person, right? I had a client recently ask me, she may even be on here. She said, I really like doing intervals. And I said, okay, great, let's do it. And she's like, well, do you think that's going to help the best? And I said, well, you're going to do it. So that's great, right? That's going to be perfect. And if you enjoy that, then you're going to stick on there and you're going to probably work harder than if I were to give you something that I think is going to work better, but you may not like or enjoy it or work as hard at it, right? So there's that, right? That's the first thing. What do you like? What will you push at? Second, there's what can your lifestyle or what you have access to provide you to do? That's another piece of it, right? So that's going to differ for each person. And then third, yes, there's probably an ideal sort of exercise that's going to work exactly for you. And we may not know that just yet, right? Because everybody's body is going to be a little bit different. You've all heard, we've got mesomorphs, ectomorphs, endomorphs, and there's going to be different types of training that's going to work towards each and every one a little bit differently, right? I know a couple of weeks ago we talked about, do I fast before? Do I not? all of those things are things that we can help you dial in. And I don't mean to be a sales ad, right? But this one I just feel like is so individualized that if you feel running is working for you, and it truly is, then stick with that. And if you enjoy it, fantastic. That would be my answer.
Super. Jessee, how about for you? What thoughts do you have about the best exercise to support fat loss?
Yes, I'm going to take it a step back and make it a little bit more generic, make it more general. So when we look at kind of the body's ability to burn fat or to build muscle, we're going to say, generally speaking, you do cardio, you get your heart rate going, you get that sweat going. It's going to be cardio based. It's going to be more fat loss based. If you start doing some strength training, right, you're going really heavy, lighter weights, you're not really sweating very much, heart rate's not really going, you're building muscle, you're in hypertrophy mode, you're not in fat loss mode. So in essence, anything that's cardio, anything that's going to get your heart rate going is going to be burning fat versus something that's going to be less cardiovascular, if that makes sense. So, and then of course, just like Megan said, depending on the body type, right? Endomorph versus an ectomorph, skinny versus like to build on a muscle like me. Everybody has their own struggle. So we definitely say first things first, do what you love, and then make sure we change it up. Right. So if we're doing something that we love and we're not seeing the results that we need, then it's time to change to a different cardio. Right. But running is the highest, most intense, biggest pros for your cons. Right. I mean, it's high impact. It's you got to have the body to do it. I mean, I love the runners that never ran until they were 50 and then they've been able to run for 20 years. But somebody who's been running since they were 15, they probably can't run after the age of 40. I mean, your knees just can only last so long. So finding what works for you in your now, I think, is the best takeaway to do cardio. Just get your sweat on.
That's great. Thanks, Jessee. How about for you, Angelo? How would you answer the question? What is the best exercise to support fat loss?
These two ladies were spot on with their answers. I want to make sure that it is heard. You don't need to be a runner to lose weight. Lots and lots of our clients do not run and they still lose weight. That's going to be your total program, the way that your nutrition interacts with your training and your overarching strategy and how we cycle. That said, I do love running. So a little bit of the nerd stuff behind the scenes is that type 1 muscle fiber training, okay, exercise in the oxidative pathway is going to be non-hypertrophic. It's a very technical way of saying that when you run, you expend energy and burn calories, but you don't add muscle mass. That's one of the reasons it's so effective for pure weight loss. Now, I just spoke with a client today on the phone, and he asked me, how come my weight has been in such a straight trajectory downward, and recently it's leveled off. I feel good, but the only thing that's changed is my conditioning. Well, what changed was we started adding in hypertrophic training, resistance training. He's still doing some cardio, but his focus is hypertrophic training. And he said, oh, does that mean that I should go back to the cardio? My answer was no, not right now. That is okay. You are still losing fat. You've just reached a threshold where your muscular hypertrophy, so here, muscle growth, is now matching your fat loss. And there is a measure of banking for the future when you're turning your body into a more efficient fat burning machine, more resource heavy. Being resource heavy is actually a good thing from a metabolic standpoint. So I like to see people do a balance of a lot of things. But if I simply want type 1 muscle fiber training where they're going to innervate their slow twitch fibers, they're not going to add new lean mass unless you're highly deconditioned, running is absolutely one of my favorites. Megan gave the most direct and accurate answer. If you only remember one thing, whatever you do is the best exercise for fat loss. And that is the truth. I've seen athletes for years. Whatever you will do and do with gusto and fervor, that will be the best exercise. If you say, Angelo, I like running and swimming exactly even, and I want to lose 10 pounds, go run. Otherwise, do what you do what you love. That's going to get you where you're going.
Excellent. Thank you, all three of you, for that. Megan, I'm going to toss this question that came in for you. Could you explain the differences in those body types you mentioned? There was ectomorph and endomorph and mesomorph.
Sure. So my screen just changed. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, great. Sorry about that. So our ectomorphs are going to be skinnier, typically leaner. If they're not necessarily lean, they're going to store most of their fat in their belly, usually when they do put on weight. They're also going to be those that have a harder time putting on muscle, right? So you might be just long, skinny arms and legs, and then have the fat stores right there in the middle. Our mesomorphs are going to be the ones that are stronger, right? So if you look at a weight, you kind of put on, you can lift some weights and you'll put on muscle really easy. And they'll usually gain fat between like their mid torso down to their upper thigh area. Glutes, all of that included. Yay for us ladies who are mesomorphs. And then we've got our endomorphs, and those are going to be those who feel like they're just more stocky and broad, right? So you might be really tall, but like big bones, some people describe it as. Also, these people will put on muscle really quickly, but not necessarily the same way or the same look that the mesomorphs will. And these people kind of, when they gain weight all over their body and kind of more evenly distributed. Does that answer that?
Yep, that was super. Yeah, I know we have some diagrams and some things in the MetPro app and on our website too.
Yes.
So that was super helpful.
Yeah, and if you have any questions on what type of body type you are, make sure you touch base with your coach, because you're not always one and not part of the other too, right? So sometimes you can have a little mixture as well, and it can change. So.
Super. Jessee, I'm going to pass this question over to you, and this one might resonate with some people. It resonates with me. Somebody asks, I have the worst sweet tooth. It's out of control. Can you help with that?
I don't know. What are you doing right now? Are you eating less sugar? So usually from my years of coaching, the biggest trigger to a sweet tooth is that you are low blood sugar. You are having a deprivation in your body, and your body needs fuel immediately. And it is smart, and it knows I'm going to get the quickest amount of energy, pure sugar, right? So it's going to, go for that candy bar. It's going to go for the fruit versus the jerky, or, whatever that sweetness is that you're craving. It usually is an imbalance. It's usually that you didn't eat enough. So the number one thing that I would say probably every coach notices with every new client, minus that 1% that's special, is that those that come into us with a sweet tooth, it's usually gone in the first 7 days. So what we have been able to conquer is keeping ahead of the game, right? So like Angelo kind of mentioned earlier, we're here to direct your body. We're not here to take orders from your body, right? We're here to say, hey, this is what you're going to get used to. And as soon as it gets used to it, we're going to make a change based on how it responded. And so that sweet tooth is such a huge importance when we're first getting started, because if you're having those sweet tooths, if you're having the cravings at night, right, usually that's when that sweet tooth creeps in, or maybe at that 3 o'clock, in the afternoon, where your blood sugar start to tank. It's been a while, maybe you need snack and you haven't had one. Those are all very normal responses from your body saying, hey, I need fuel and I need it now. So what I would say to somebody who has a sugar craving is eat more during your day. Have a bigger breakfast. If you're not having carbs at breakfast and maybe you're just having eggs and bacon, have some toast with it, have some oatmeal with it, make a sweet potato with it, do whatever you need to do to increase your carbs, the good kind, ahead of the day. And then throughout your day, you'll notice that craving is either lessened or even gone, right? And so most people come to us say, hey, can I eat more at night and take away that food during the day? No, you cannot. We need you to eat that food for fuel during the day, so that when you hit dinner time, your body has everything it needs and it's ready to start burning that fat. So that's what we're looking at, and we're changing how your body responds, really. And so that sugar craving, it's variable, but usually we can help you with it, if that helped. And then we have like little tricks and trades, right? We've got our recipes. We all like our sweet stuff. So I know one of our coaches loves those extracts. So if you guys like lemon extract or maple extract, you could put a little drop of that on your oatmeal, make it all sweet and delicious. But definitely ways to help with the sugar cravings, but the goal is to eliminate them by healthy eating, stabilizing that blood sugar.
Excellent. Thanks, Jessee. Angelo, here's a question for you that came in. This person wrote, I've read that alcoholic beverages trigger the body to store more fat in addition to causing overeating. Is this true? Or is most of the weight lost from cutting alcohol due to inflammation?
That is true. Basically, every reaction that you don't want tends to be triggered from alcohol. True story. I wish I had a simpler answer or a huge asterisk and a but and a huge solution here, but it unfortunately, the way the human body responds to alcohol is all of the above. So a gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories, a gram of protein is 4 calories, a gram of fat is 9 calories, and a gram of alcohol is 7 calories. So it's not as bad as drinking straight fat, but almost. So you're paying the calorie cost. When you drink alcohol, it creates inflammation in your body. We can feel it when especially if you have it a few nights back to back, you can feel the inflammation. Now, certain alcohols, certain quantities tend to trigger that more so. And then the body just tends to like to store water and retain water in response to drinking alcohol. Unless you drink too much alcohol, then you actually get dehydrated and then you have this rebound effect where you're lighter the next day and then up 2 days after that. And so I see Megan and Jessee go, because we see this all the time. If you're like, oh, that would never be me. Well, guess what? That's everyone. It happens. And it's not going to stop me from enjoying a beverage that I like once in a while and in moderation. Now, here's probably, because I want to be able to give you some practical takeaway. The mistake that's often made is, well, I like drinking XYZ. So what I'm going to do is instead of having a normal portion, 1 or 2 nights a week, I'm just going to have a few sips each night. A lot of people don't do that, but a few times I'll hear people say this. And that's fine. And there's even an argument that a half a glass or a glass of red wine isn't too bad for your health at night. But I am here to tell you that it's very bad for your weight loss. That doesn't mean you cannot lose weight while still having a glass of red wine. It just means that we have to then use other levers and the dials and variables. It's the act of having basically an interrupting factor. Everything having to do with alcohol, not only including what it's comprised of and how our body responds to it, but right down to the time of day that we consume it, tend to have the detrimental effect. So if you're going to have a half a glass of wine with breakfast, it's probably not going to have nearly the impact as far as negating fat loss. But you'll notice that our coaches are likely, as they have you on a more aggressive phases, if you're going through a cutting phase, they're going to start decreasing the amount of carbs you're getting, not eliminating, but decreasing. They're going to start pulling them a little earlier in the day. And what they're doing is they're creating more consecutive hours. Biologically, your body has to go without replenishing glycogen stores, without having a carbohydrate or glucose replenishment. So now when you have that alcohol, even if it's a small amount and it's right before bed, you're cutting that cycle almost in half. So there's a lot of ways that we tend to lose. So this doesn't mean, oh, well, that means just go and drink a whole lot 1 night a week. But basically, if you're going to have alcohol, don't stress out over it. Enjoy within reason a beverage that you enjoy and have it at special occasions. So it's like, oh, well, I have my anniversaries coming up. I can't do this. I can't be with, I can't work with you guys if I can't drink. No. You can drink any night. You can have dessert any night, and you can have alcohol any night that you can put on your calendar if you put it on the calendar in advance. That's not what I'm worried about. Is you're going to have, between now and this time next month, you are going to consume hundreds of meals and snacks. You're going to consume hundreds of beverages. I want to make sure that 85% of those, you have a routine in place that's going to enable you to be consistent and for the majority of the time on track with your strategy. Because your strategy is going to work for a while and then it's going to stop working. And if we have no baseline to compare that against, well, we won't know when your strategy is or isn't working, and we won't know what to fix when it stops working. So the illustration and the principle falls under the same deal that happened with one of my clients who calls me up. She said, Angelo, and it was around, the time of year they have those heart-shaped Pepto-Bismol flavored candies in the dish at work. And she's like, I've been nailing my diet so good for the last 2 weeks. And today there was that candy dish out. These chalk flavored heart candies were sitting on the table. And I don't know what got into me. I just started and I ended up eating the whole bowl. And I said to her, here's the deal. What I want you to have is I want you to write down your favorite dessert. Is it tiramisu? Is it, chocolate ice cream? What's your favorite? Put it on the calendar, go and enjoy it guilt-free. Don't get into the heart-shaped, chalk-flavored Pepto-Bismol candies because it's Tuesday at 2 o'clock and somebody set them on the counter. In other words, don't nickel and dime me. Have a plan, have a cheat meal, enjoy yourself, and then get right back on track. Get right back on track. And there's science to that. There really is. See, because what happens is you'll notice you have a bad meal one night. You wake up, your body wasn't used to that much carbs. A glass of wine and a couple dinner rolls, if your body's not used to that much carbohydrate, what happens is each gram of glucose or glycogen stored in your muscle, stored in your liver, is buffered with 3 grams of water. So that's where you get that water fluctuation. And all of a sudden you ate an extra 300 calories of carbs or bread, and you wake up to an extra 3 pounds of you. And that doesn't seem to make mathematical sense. Well, that's because there's water fluctuations buffering the sugar. So what happens is when you have a cheat meal or a glass of wine or a dessert that you like, or whatever it is that you're looking forward to enjoying, the next day you may be up in weight and your body's holding on to that and storing a little water with it. As long as you get right back on track, you'll get right back into your rhythm, you'll start burning through that, and you'll offset it, no harm, no foul. The problem isn't vacation. The problem is not getting back into routine. So when I measure one of my clients' success, I'm always grading them based on how quickly they slide back into their routine. Because now you have a cheat meal one night, the next day, now your glucose, glycogen stores have all been filled. Your muscles have been replenished. Now, when you have another cheat meal because you were exhausted from last night's escapades and you didn't plan for this afternoon and you missed your snack, and so now the kids just want to grab pizza and you just say, oh, well, I might as well start back next week or start back Monday or tomorrow, whatever the case may be. That food's got nowhere to go. You don't have any more room in your muscles. So your body releases the hormones that says, oh, okay, there's no more room here. So now we actually store it as body fat. Now we're actually giving up gained ground. So that's why the key is it's okay to have an indulgence, a beverage, etc. once in a while. Just get back on track quickly and make sure it's a special occasion. It's something you really like.
Awesome. Thanks, Angelo. Megan, this question is for you. A woman asked, kind of dovetailing off of what Angelo was just saying, this woman asked, I can't seem to stick to my meal plan on the weekends to find sustained weight loss. What might you recommend for weekends?
Yeah, that does really dovetail into what Angelo was just saying, right? Is I would suggest rerouting your goals, right? You might have different goals Monday through Friday that just aren't feasible for Saturday and Sunday, right? Maybe all the kids are home, maybe your spouse is home, what have you. Your schedule's off, right? So one thing I would definitely recommend is set different goals so that you feel like you can be successful, right? If that's okay, I'm definitely gonna get my breakfast and my first snack in, I'm not gonna compromise, make sure you do that. The other thing that I would suggest is setting a timer for yourself, right? If you feel like, oh, I just look up and I've forgotten to eat all day versus I'm eating all the wrong things, you might just go ahead and set a timer on your phone so that it dings at you. I love using timers versus even my reminders, because then it keeps bothering me, right? Until I turn it off. And I don't turn it off until I eat something. So those are a couple techniques that I would suggest, but I would definitely also say keep it simple, right? Don't overcomplicate the weekends. A lot of times we put pressure, okay, this weekend I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to do it. And then you look up and you're like, oh, but we have family coming into town and we have this and we have that. Oh man, the whole weekend's just going to be a wash, right? Nope. Go ahead and try your darndest and set some goals that feel realistic to you. And those can be surrounding food. They can not be surrounding food, right? It might be, I'm going to get my breakfast and I'm going to go for my long workout, or I'm going to finish reading that book, or, set goals that you feel like you can achieve. That way you feel successful at the end of the weekend, because that's also a big thing, right? You're more likely to stick to your routine and your habits if you feel like you're stringing successful days together. And sometimes 100% of the time is not reasonable, right? So that's what I would definitely say, especially for weekends.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to you still, Megan. There was the topic you were addressing before about the body types. And
Yes.
somebody said, I am a mesomorph, but it thought that cardio plus weights is a good thing. Should this person avoid weights altogether as a mesomorph?
No is the easy answer, right? Depends on where you are in your process, right? I know we say depends a lot around here, right? But that's just the how we customize to you guys, right? So I apologize for that. But no, it really depends. Weights are not a bad thing for mesomorphs at all. But if you're a mesomorph and you feel like you have 20, 50, 60 pounds to lose, yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing heavy weight training at this point, because you're not going to be able to see the muscle that you're putting on. And that can be frustrating. And you might see the scale continue to increase. Or you might be a mesomorph who, you do want to lose fat and you've been doing cardio and you need to shift gears because that's kind of stalled you. So you'll need to pull that weightlifting lever. So there's a time and a place for both of those for everyone, right? So no. As a mesomorph, you shouldn't avoid either one. You should do both of them, just probably maybe at different times or same time.
Okay, thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
Jessee, I've got a question for you, kind of going back to the sweet tooth notion and specifically artificial sweeteners. This woman, I use approximately 6 packets of Splenda a day and wonders what happens when that goes away. If artificial sweeteners drive sugar cravings and create metabolic chaos because the body can't recognize them, let's talk a little bit about those artificial sweeteners, such as Splenda.
That's a great question. So yes, we definitely have our favorites when it comes to sweetening our foods. Our best choice is to just sweeten it with fruit, right? You get fruit, you get carbs at all your meals. So if we can find that sweetener that way through food, but I know that for our beverages, our coffee in the morning, our teas, we like to sweeten it up. So our rule of thumb really is, if you can go more plant-based, then you're better off. If you can go without it, you're the best off, right? So again, there's that spectrum of where are you and where would progress be for you? So if you're having 6 packets of Splenda a day, I would say try to switch over to one of those plant-based ones like the stevia or the truvia. And if you're one of my clients, I'll send it to you. Well, we'll all send it to you, but to try out a different artificial sweetener that is plant-based. And so your body knows a little bit more what it is. So when we eat Splenda, or when we're putting in this artificial sweetener like diet soda, let's just talk diet soda for a second, because everybody thinks it's nothing. And so I have clients that will drink it for 6 months and they won't tell me. You know who you are out there. So diet soda has the same kind of thing with those artificial sweeteners. In essence, to keep it simple, when you tell your brain you're getting sugar and then it looks for that energy and it's not there, it is going to constantly be looking for that energy. So if you have a diet soda in the morning because you're trying to kick your coffee habit because you have cream and sugar in your coffee and diet soda has nothing, you're not doing anything. You're not doing yourself any favors. So making sure that you say to your brain, this is sugar. This is what you should be looking for, and not confusing it with all these artificial things, you'll be better off. Right now, again, if we do 6 a day, then maybe cut down to 3 or cut down to 2, right? And then we can look at switching it out. But if all possibly, go plant-based, because those are going to be better chemically for the brain. And then eventually, hopefully, we can kick those sugar cravings, and then we don't need it at all.
Excellent. Thanks, Jessee. Angelo, here's a question for you. How do hormones play a role in weight loss? And I know that's a big topic, but describe the role that hormones play in weight loss.
So they definitely play a role. So that's the first thing that I always tell individuals. If anybody has claims that, oh, your hormones have no role in weight gain or weight loss, that person is not a 49-year-old female, because I can tell you for a fact they absolutely do play a role. But it's really the same answer that I gave the lady who was asking earlier about peri-menopause. Is those aren't the levers that you can control. That's going to happen to you. Now, I mean, working with thousands and thousands of women over the years, yes, there have been instances where somebody went to their doctor and they worked on their hormones and there was a night and day difference. There have been instances, more frequently, where they continue to try this, try that, yet the hormone scenario tends to persist. By the way, it tends to go away also. This is just a short time period. In fact, ironically, the most dramatic experience that I ever had was with a gentleman who had he had a slight hormonal imbalance, and he was taking medication for it. And I had worked with him. He lost about 13, 14 pounds over just a couple months. But there was just some certain red flags. So I sent him, go talk with your doctor on the hormonal topic. And he went back, and it turned out that his numbers were dramatically off, and they adjusted the medicine he was already taking. He came back and he lost another 26 pounds over the next 2 months. That is very unusual. So the thing is, I can count on one hand the time where there was such a dramatic deficiency that it was the make or break. Now, what I can tell you happens with 95% of my clients is, I've tried this supplement or I've done that protocol, and I continue to battle with my weight or getting the goals that I want. Now that I've been consistent with my clean eating and exercise for 3-4 months, what a night and day difference. And then I'll always ask them, I say, do you feel like your hormones aren't playing a role? I have never yet had one of my female clients say, oh no, I feel like it's just a non-issue at all. No, it's still there. It's definitely still there. The point is, you're using the levers that you do have to overcome any scenario that your body has to deal with. I'm constantly finding someone looking for a special food or a special regimen that's going to all of a sudden change the fact that their body hormonally is you're going through a change of life. And there isn't going to be a special food. It's going to be in total. Are you setting me up metabolically to get the best possible outcome? And so along with that, if you are one of the few that suspects something else going on outside of that, nowadays it's so easy to have blood work done and to work with your doctors and to get that sort of stuff tested. But I can tell you that the most common culprit is lifestyle over something being wonky.
Excellent. Thanks, Angelo. Megan, this question is going to come to you. Circling back to the topic of weekends, Somebody asked, sometimes on weekends, I tend to have a late breakfast around 11 or 12. Is that harmful? Or what are your thoughts on those kind of late breakfasts or brunches?
Harmful? Likely not. But my next question would be, well, what time do you wake up in the morning, right? Because if you said, oh yeah, I'm up at 6, I'm going for my 17-mile run, I'm home at 10 and I'm still not eating for another hour or two, then yes, harmful, right? It's definitely not helping us. You have no energy to fuel your body through those things and through your daily routines. Now, if you're telling me, well, I don't get up until 10:30. Well, then no, that's fine. You're probably going to find that you'll have one less meal those days. Or if you're staying up then till, 1 or 2 in the morning, then you'll probably have space for all of your meals. So no, not harmful, but I would definitely suggest always getting breakfast within 1 to 2 hours of waking up. Now, let's also say another scenario, right, where you're meeting a friend for brunch at 11, and yes, you were up at 6 or 7 or 8, but you don't know what to eat because you're going to have brunch then, right? I'd recommend getting a small snack in the morning, right, to kind of bridge that gap before you do head to your brunch. So that would be my suggestions on that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks, Megan. Angelo, I'm going to pass a question over to you. I know, well, I can relate to this, and I know this question came in. It can be discouraging to see the scale in the morning not go the way you want it to be going. What recommendations might you have for a woman who's seen that scale in the morning to kind of continue on and not get discouraged and not feel stuck?
The scale, what it said this morning, doesn't matter. Your trend over several days or weeks matters very much. And if you're going the wrong direction, that's what your coach, you need to be having conversations with your coach about, so you can have a strategy to make sure we're rectifying, unless that's part of the arc that you're on currently. So even when we're working with developing algorithms based on our learnings from thousands and thousands of clients over almost 2 decades now, one day's weight was not predictive. And most people, and this was actually kind of a poll we did, most people are surprised. They all will say, oh yeah, my weight always bounces and fluctuates 1 or 2 pounds every day, but most people think that's abnormal. It's very normal, very, very normal. Everybody's like that. And so in fact, we had one of our friends and actually one of our coworkers who's a little bit crazy. So he decided to do the protocol, and he followed MetPro. And as part of his challenge, he did it for 75 days without one deviation. And we tracked his weight loss. He lost like about 20, 25, 26 pounds, which was very appropriate to the size and amount of weight that he had. But you would be amazed at watching the trajectory. Okay, so 221, 221, 220, 219, 218, 220, 221, 218, 217, 217, 217, 218, 217, 218, 215, 215, 216, 215, 216, 215, 213, 213, 215, 216, 213, 213, 212. That's what we were seeing day in and day out as we watched his journey over 75 days as he did this. Very normal. That's our bodies, our biology. That's how we're made up. That's how our bodies respond. So it's very normal when you see the up and down. As far as technical, our algorithm looks at 9 days as optimal. Now, we don't always have 9 days of data, so we can project based off of less data. But if you want to know the truth, where's your average weight? Take the last 9 days, last 9 weigh-ins, divide it by 9. That's your actual moving average. In another 2 weeks, do it again. What you're going to see is you're changing a couple ounces. That's a much better indicator of the trajectory of your body and the progress. We tend to have short-term memory. Everybody I've talked to feels like I should lose weight. I should be losing weight faster. Why? Because the process of losing weight is so hard. It takes so much effort to watch what you eat clean, prepare your meals, exercise regular. And then, oh, by the way, that first 10 comes flying off, and then the body starts getting stubborn and we have to change our strategy. It's a lot of work. I had a gentleman work with me and lose 61 pounds in the first month. I didn't misspeak, 61 pounds in 30 days. You know what he said to me? He said, I feel like I'm not losing quite as fast as I should be. Now, there's a big asterisk here. This gentleman started at almost 500 pounds. If you lose 61 pounds in your first month, you need to go to the doctor in the hospital right now. But for this gentleman, that was not the case. But it just goes to show the natural psychology. I'm far more interested in the state of your metabolism. The number on the scale will always catch up to the state of your metabolism. So even if you're only down a few ounces, that's a victory if you're eating more food. You could be down 2 pounds on the scale tomorrow. If you starved yourself yesterday and skipped meals, or you're just drinking shakes, it doesn't matter to me, because that number has no bearing on what your number is going to be ongoing. What I'm interested in is not the number on the scale, getting you and your body to a point where we have the foundation laid to take the next step and the next step and the next step. What are those steps? Well, kind of like Megan said earlier, we work with such a diverse crew. You ask, well, should I be doing weights? Should I be doing running? Well, are you someone who, your definition of exercise is walking the dog around, the block a couple times? It's a different answer than someone who's hired us because they have a physique show that they're doing and they're going to be on stage in front of 300 people in a swimsuit and are going to flex. Two different answers. We have an answer for either one of those. It always has to do with where you're at today and where we want your metabolism to go. And I know we're running out of time. I'll just one last comment. For years, I used to travel and put on seminars, and I had a number of seminars, evaluation-based coaching. I had a number of different seminars that I would give, but the one that was most requested was called, Does This Diet Make Me Look Fat? It's not a name I would use today, but it was at the time, 2 decades ago, a very potent expose on the impact the diet industry has had, particularly on young women. Because big picture, we've talked a lot about best practices and strategies, tips and tricks, but fundamentals of what it's important to know to get you from point A to point B is that your metabolism will acclimate to any diet you participate in. And that could be very good, and it could also be devastating. That's why extremes and gimmicks are bad. I didn't say they don't work. I know them all. I know you can do this aggressive cut and you can lose 5 pounds. What I'm interested in is, what's your next step? Where are you going to be at 30 days from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now? Because my athletes who started with their exercise being walking around the park with their dog a couple times a year, not skinnier and skinnier for their high school reunion and then hitting new lows and backsliding into their worst shape every year, coming back to the gimmicks for the next thin fix. That's not what we want. A foundation and a strategy to move forward with that's going to last. That's going to be ongoing and give you lasting, sustainable results.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Angelo. That's a good high point to wrap up this week's MetPro Meetup. I definitely appreciate Jessee, Megan, you, Angelo, all contributing. And thank you, everyone, with the great questions. I've said it before, this transformation journey really is a journey. So I know there were some questions we weren't able to get to today. If you have questions or there's something lingering, please reach out. Definitely, this is what we love to do, is help and support and provide the guidance to get you to that goal that you're setting out to reach. And so please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll reach back out next week. We've got another exciting topic to line out for you guys. I'm very excited about this one. So thanks everyone for joining today, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.